friends, I'm Pamela Poole at Pamela Poole Fine Art and Southern Sky Publishing. And as you know, I love to paint as an artist, but I also like to write books. And the reason is because I can't find the kind of books I like to read. I do a lot of research, so I do read nonfiction, and I read some classics in fiction. And sometimes I come across some good fiction, but typically, even Christian fiction seems to have words that I don't like to hear that are offensive to me, and situations that are the same way. And that seems to be acceptable to most people, but it's not to me. So I write my own stories, and then I share them because if I feel this way about books, there are probably other people who do as well. So for those of you out there the Lord may lead to my books because it might be something you would like, that's all I ask for. I don't do a lot of campaigning promotions and things like that. I just write for myself. And some marketing people will tell you that is a no-no. You should write for a market. But I am my market. So anyway, I want to share one with you. This is the second book in my Strange Sands Suspense Series. It's classified in some genres as inspirational suspense. It's more than that. It is very Christian suspense from a Christian worldview, biblical worldview. And so if you like that sort of thing, this might be your cup of tea. These are short novellas, anywhere from about 30,000 to 50,000 words. So they don't take, you can read them in an evening. They don't take very long. And then you're ready for the next one. There are now 6 books in this series. And I just released number 6. And I'll start working on number 7 pretty soon. I need a little bit of a break to do some painting. But after that, I'll be ready to start on the 7th one in the series. I want to tell you a little bit about the second book. A lot of second books in series, I don't know why, but a publisher told me a long time ago, they are ignored, the second book in the series. And I'm like, wow, the second book in both of my series are some of the best stuff. So I wanted to draw attention to the second book in the Strange Sands series in case you would like to read it too. It's called The Hidden Hallway, Strange Sands Suspense 2. And this is the description. An antebellum house, a hidden hallway, a tale of passion and revenge. As an architectural historian, Mercedes Ellison is hired by Tammy and Clayton Popplewell to guide them as they register and renovate an antebellum house in the beautiful southern city of Savannah, Georgia. But she knows this is not the boring job she hoped for when she arrives to find the local police there on the first day. As Mercedes investigates the history of the property, and neighbors seek her out with a strange Civil War-era tale of passion and revenge, she works to uncover a terrifying darkness and help the Popplewell couple make the house into the inn where they hope to share light before the Popplewells give up and she loses the job. I'm going to read some of the first chapter for you just to give you a feel of what this book is about, and then maybe you will want to read it too. Chapter 1. If we understand that everything happening to us is to make us more Christ-like, it will solve a great deal of anxiety in our lives. A.W. Tozer in The Crucified Life. Oh no, Mercedes said out loud to herself. Arriving at a crime scene was no way to meet a new client, dead or alive. She sighed and drove past the police cars at the historic property in Savannah, Georgia, where she had an appointment with Tammy and Clayton Popplewell, a couple who fled big city life in the northern United States. They purchased a rundown historic house to restore, hoping to rent rooms or open up an inn. The site was a good one for their plans, within walking distance of some of the beautiful park squares in Savannah, but it needed a lot of work. There was street parking a block away. Mercedes pulled over, leaving the air conditioning on as she picked up her phone to text Tammy Popplewell. While she waited for a response, she sent a text to Quincy Homewood. Tammy Popplewell sent back a text to tell her to come on in for their appointment. Her husband was with the police in the backyard and would finish soon. Quincy sent a text that made her laugh. Ellisons don't show up at ruined houses and expect a job anyone else can do. When you finish the exorcism, want to have lunch with me back here in little old Bluffton? I can take a break at noon. We'll eat in broad daylight and order something with garlic. I'll bring our pure silver utensils. Still smiling, she answered, "Love to. I'll let you know if I can be back up there during your lunch break." She checked her visor mirror to put on a light natural color of lip balm. Then she smoothed her breezy summer blouse before turning off the engine, gathering her purse and her digital tablet, and she opened her door into the oppressive humidity that promised a coming thunderstorm. As she followed a sidewalk veined with the roots of elderly magnolia trees, Mercedes noted the various styles of architecture on the same street as her new clients. They had a federal architectural style house as one side neighbor and a loose Georgian style on the other. But the front facade of this house was firmly Creole townhouse style, with strong Spanish and Caribbean influences. The Creole style was popular from about 1788 through mid-1800, and this house loosely dated in the antebellum era as pre-Civil War. The style would have been common in New Orleans, but it was unusual in Savannah, and that was the reason she was excited about working with the Popplewell couple to restore it. She stopped to admire the front of the house, which stood with dignity like a southern belle in a black lace shawl. A shabby brick walkway, step-up porch, and 3 brick-lined steps provided the setting for once beautiful double front doors. Iron, lacy scroll work protected leaded paned glass on the upper half of the door. It was the same style that graced the front of the house, running up the corners of the porch, along the eaves, and into a fence from the porch to the side of the house. A walkway led to an ornately arched gate of the same ironwork. The facade of the second floor of the house imitated the porch under it, duplicating the scrolling black iron. Faded yellow siding still created a cheerful impression overall, and she decided it was an unusual house with plenty of personality. Tammy Popplewell opened the front door and stepped out. "You must be Mercedes Ellison. You look just like the photo on your website. I'm Tammy." Mercedes went to the porch and smiled back at her client. "Yes, I am Mercedes. I'm excited to meet you, Tammy. I was just thinking how much personality this property has." Her client's eyes clouded with trouble. "Yes, it has that. Come on inside, Mercedes. My husband will be free in a few minutes." The entrance hall through the double front doors had been impressive at one time. The musty odor of decay and neglect greeted Mercedes now, and a garish large flora on peeling wallpaper was evidence of a lapse in good taste by a previous owner. Nearby, the ruins of an armchair in the same colors backed against the wall, and overhead, broken strings of grimy crystals hung from a chandelier. 3 police officers came through the hall into the once grand entryway with Tammy's husband, Clayton, and there were introductions all around. The officers were courteous and silent, while Clayton told Mercedes they had an adventure early that morning, but there was no reason not to proceed with their meeting and plans. Mercedes felt one of the young officers studying her, and she turned to meet his eyes. He half smiled and nodded politely. She looked over at Clayton and asked, "Will I have access to the police report? It could have implications for my paperwork." The Popplewell couple both agreed, and Clayton saw the officers out the front doors. Tammy still wore the troubled look Mercedes noticed when they met. "Tammy, your mind's not on the things we need to cover today. Will it help to talk about what happened?" Clayton came back in and Tammy said, "Let's tell Mercedes about the intruder, and you should tell me what the police said. I can't focus on our appointment with Mercedes until we talk this through." He sighed and came to hug her. Then he turned to Mercedes. "Let's go into the kitchen for tea and coffee. There's an air conditioner back there." Tammy and I cleaned up the kitchen, a bedroom, and a bathroom to use for ourselves while we planned for restoration and remodeling. Mercedes sat at a painted vintage kitchen table with her newest clients. It was small, and the chipped paint revealed its past lives in several colors, but someone had scrubbed it clean. She sipped herbal tea while Tammy Popplewell announced, "I'm not staying here tonight." In a patient tone, Clayton said, "I understand how you feel, but we agreed to stay on site until we get a schedule and work can begin. We aren't even sure a crime occurred." "I locked that door, Clayton, and the footprints aren't my imagination." Mercedes kept her voice gentle. "Tammy, tell me your version of what happened." "Before dawn, I woke up feeling like something was wrong. It was damp in the house and the air was stirring, but not from our little air conditioner unit. Then I saw the bedroom door was open. Sure, Clayton might have gotten up to use the bathroom and forgot to close it, but when I saw it, my heart jumped. There was something sinister about it. I was on the side of the bed closest to the black hole in the open door, and I shook Clayton to wake him. He said he closed the door because of the room air conditioner and the musty smell of the house. We got up to look around, and the back door stood open. There had been rain after we went to bed, and footprints were in the crushed, wet grass. Not definable enough to say what kind of shoes the intruder wore, though. If the intruder came in through the door, he removed his shoes or cleaned up any trace of wet tracks that would give him away," said Clayton. "We really don't know what to make of it, but the open door of the bedroom really spooked Tammy." He reached over and rubbed his wife's hand. "May I see the outdoor footprints?" asked Mercedes. The couple took her out to the backyard, and Mercedes followed the bruised grass and slight impressions of a person's weight in the sandy soil to an outdoor building. There was a crusty nail and the ghostly outline of a key shape in the rotting wood near the wall where the foot tracks ended, but no key dangled there now. "This looks like it was once a service quarters or a guest house. Is it used for storage?" "I haven't been inside it. It's locked and they boarded the windows up. The real estate agent said they marked the building to be demolished, and we understood that they would do it before we arrived, so I doubt we have any claim on whatever's inside. I'll call her about it today." Mercedes scanned the area for more tracks. Where do the police think the intruder entered and exited the backyard? Clayton pointed to a wooden privacy screen. "The yard has a low fence behind the overgrowth along the sides, but that raggedy hedge at the back of the property is an old wood screen with a ramshackle gate in it. It's rickety and the rusty hinges grind, but someone could open it and stoop under the shrubbery." Mercedes and Tammy followed him to the hedge, where they could barely make out the top of the warped and weathered wooden fence. Along the way, they found more bruised grass and a dirt footpath under some bottlebrush bushes that bristled with red blooms. Mercedes studied the evidence of uninvited guests on the Popplewell property. The house has been sitting empty a long time, and kids might have been hanging around it. Did the police visit the homeowners behind you to learn whether they saw anything unusual? They were going there next and said they would update me if they learned anything. There are occasional calls about teenagers lurking around, but they have committed no crimes other than trespassing. The complaints increase in the summer when schools are out. The officers think kids might believe the house is still empty, but it doesn't account for where the back door key is. I'll change that lock today, and I'll put one on that gate too. Looks like we'll be making a trip to the hardware store. They walked back toward the house, and Mercedes paused again at the dilapidated outbuilding. I suspect there was once a key hanging on that nail, and it might have been for the back door. Various occupants of the house probably thought it was a safe place to keep a spare key if they locked themselves out. A thief is more likely to look under the welcome mat or a flower pot than a nail on an outbuilding. She searched her tablet for records on the property. It appears the original owners of this house had no slaves, but they had servants, and this was the quarters for a gardener. You hired me for all the boring work, specifics about the historic guidelines and the paperwork that's required for restoration. But if I see any other records and correspondence relating to the previous owners, I'll be glad to investigate any valid accounts about the history of the property. Tammy said, "Yes, please check into the history of this house. All we know about it is what the real estate records report, the year they think someone built it, ownership changes, that sort of thing." The agent did mention that the houses on this street survived the fire of 1898 because they had tin roofs, which resisted the embers from other structures. This is the original building, except for remodeling over the years. Mercedes noticed Clayton studying her, so she asked, "Is further investigation to dig up history on the house okay with you? It shouldn't take much time, but if it does, I will have to charge for an extra hour or two." Yes, having the history will add value to our investment, and it might direct some of our decorating choices, but I find it curious that you seem focused on this building and you think there's a story about it in the property's history. Taken aback, Mercedes raised her brows. She looked at the building again, studying it. "Yes, I came straight here, didn't I? I suppose I followed the footprints. Someone else who was in your yard after last night's rain had an interest in the building, so it piques my curiosity." Tammy took her arm. "Come on, look at the bedroom doorway." "We hired a cleaning crew to get everything in this place cleared out," Clayton said, as they left the kitchen through a door that opened to a living room and a hallway. "They planned to finish yesterday, which is why we timed things to sleep here last night. It would have smelled better in here, but they called with an emergency and rescheduled for tomorrow." His phone rang, and he asked Tammy to continue showing Mercedes around while he talked to the real estate agent about the building out back. He went outside while Tammy led Mercedes to the living room and entryway. Mercedes winced as she glanced around the room and saw a tarnished, brassy, fat-bellied statue of an idol and an unboxed seance game. A deck of worn-out tarot cards, crystals, an eye symbol, and a pyramid sat on top of a stack of old books on magic and witchcraft. Grotesque half-animal carvings on incense burners rested in thick dust near a tiny golden shrine in a corner, and nearby were candle stubs and a box of matches. In a window hung a dream catcher draped in spider webs, and on the crumbling plaster wall a dusty, faded tapestry with pagan worship scenes and mythology was hanging by two nails, one corner dangling. "Tammy, I need to snap photos of the house with my tablet camera. said Mercedes. "But there are occult objects scattered all around this room, and I don't want them in my device, even as images. I'm not putting them in the permanent records of this property, so I'll return after they clean the house. Personally, I support your conviction not to stay here tonight. Absolutely do not." "Occult objects?" asked Tammy with a blank expression. Mercedes shifted her weight to one foot and hugged her tablet to her waist, praying for the right words that would not make her sound crazy. "Since you told me you're a Christian, I hope you'll understand if I seem eccentric. Many people don't realize how mainstream occult images have become as trends in home decor, collectibles, exercise, games, and jewelry. But they represent symbolism linked to occults and idols, and I try to avoid them. The Bible isn't clear whether an evil entity can inhabit objects, but it inspired them, and it can carry a level of authority around them. Meaning, I believe if we collect them or keep them close to us, like in our decor or things we wear or read, we've given them a right to be there. In my own life, I try to apply Paul's teaching in 1 Corinthians 10:20 through 22 about not taking part with demons. Unaware of their conversation, Clayton walked back inside and launched into telling them about his phone call. "The agent tells me she and the former property management agency are talking to another company about the demolition. The one they hired first has either gone bankrupt or had to leave town for unpaid debts. So I don't have a date yet about getting rid of the building. The agent also told me there's another key to the back door, and it was missing when we closed on the house. Our mystery intruder may have had it and thought the place was empty. Maybe we frightened him as much as he frightened us." Tammy still wore a blank look, as if she had too much information to process at once. So Mercedes asked for the tour of the house to continue. Clayton took over, and he chattered about their challenges to make a portion of the house livable. He led Mercedes past the staircase to a gloomy hallway, leading to the room he and his wife had as a temporary bedroom. When he opened the door, cool air greeted them, and the musty smell of the old house improved with the added aroma of magnolias in bloom. The wooden paneled door was taller than an average one, suiting the tall ceilings, and it wore generations of paint layers that peeled in places. Otherwise, it was ordinary. Still, when she let her imagination picture it wide open to the dark hallway at night, she felt a chill. Dimly lit, depressing hallways with the rectangular ghosts of former portraits on the walls led to many rooms in the house, and with the addition of planned bathrooms, she could see why the Popplewells hoped to transform it into an inn or a boarding house. But some walls were confusing. They didn't work out right in her mind according to space and symmetry. She walked past a wall at the split staircase that was out of place architecturally. The railing did not match, and there was an odd, ugly cutout section to a hall on the first floor from the landing. She walked back to a room with a door to another room, which should have had separate doors, like the downstairs version. The rooms were too small to account for the area by the staircase, and there was no closet. Mercedes scowled at the page on her tablet, puzzled. "If you don't mind, will you let me know when your contractor is going to evaluate the layout of the house and give you some estimates? According to my records of the house, and from looking at these rooms, there's space unaccounted for." Tammy and Clayton looked at each other in surprise. Clayton's voice was eager when he asked, "You mean like hidden rooms and passages?" Mercedes smiled. "It's a romantic notion, but anything's possible. People used to live in it when it was important to hide belongings and have an escape route, or maybe just cover up a drafty old fireplace. With a sparkle in his eyes, Clayton said, "We will call when the contractor gives us a date and a time." I hope that you've enjoyed part of the first chapter in The Hidden Hallway. And I wanted to let you know that the picture that you are looking at in the background behind the book is another scene in Savannah. It is a black and white picture inside the book, and it is of a jazz player that was down on the riverfront whenever I've been down there several times. And I just had to do a painting of him. It's a pastel painting. You can find it on my website called Savannah Jazz. And there's another painting that shows up in the book. I don't have the original anymore. You can get prints on my website, but it is a house in Savannah that inspired me to write this book about the Popplewell house. And it has the curly iron, that Creole look. And I just think it's a lovely painting. And a friend purchased this years ago. And but I did put a black and white version of it in the book if you'd like to see it. And that is also on my website as well. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you will check out this book on my Southern Sky Publishing website. That is www.southernskypublishing.com. Thank you. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed the book and that you can give me some feedback on what you think about it. If you read it and you like it, please consider leaving a review or telling your friends about it. Thank you so much. Until next time, this is Pamela Poole, and I am signing out. Bye-bye.